To a lot of people, gender might seem very simple. You're either born with XX chromosomes and therefore you're a girl, or you're born with XY and you're a boy. But it's not quite that simple. Even just from a biological perspective, there are a variety of reasons why you could have XX chromosomes and actually mainly be a male when it comes to your psychology, physiology, and even anatomy, and the reverse is also true. So, if you can be XY and predominantly female, what does that mean? I guess gender just isn't as simple as you thought. The chromosomes and genitalia you're born with make up your biological sex. But sex and gender aren't the same thing. Gender's made up of two other areas: your gender identity and your gender expression. Your biological sex is based on a number of physical factors, including chromosomes, hormones, and genitals. Most people fall at one end of the spectrum or the other. Most people are either entirely male or entirely female. But for a variety of reasons, about 1 in 100 people are somewhere between male and female. People can be biologically somewhere between because of the SRY gene. Every embryo has a pair of protogonads which are neither male nor female. The SRY gene is part of the male Y chromosome. So the SRY gene turns protogonads into testes, which then produce testosterone and create the rest of the male genitalia. If the male Y chromosome isn't present, then neither is the SRY gene. If the SRY gene isn't present, then the protogonads develop naturally uninterrupted. If the protogonads are given time, they naturally develop into ovaries, and then the rest of the female genitalia develops. That's how the SRY gene works, in theory at least. Sometimes the SRY gene can be missing or dysfunctional. An embryo with an XY chromosome should always have a functioning SRY gene. However, when it's missing or dysfunctional, the male genitals aren't formed. This would mean that time would pass and ovaries would be produced instead. The baby would be born with female genitalia despite having male XY chromosomes. The reverse can also happen, where an embryo with XX chromosomes can also have the SRY gene. This results in a baby with XX chromosomes being born with male genitalia. There's also a huge number of other ways that people can be born with a less clear biological sex unrelated to the SRY gene. So as you can see, biological sex isn't clearly defined. It's a spectrum and it's not always clear at birth if a child is male or female, because your chromosomes might not match your genitals. The next part of gender we'll discuss is gender identity. Your gender identity is the gender you identify yourself as. Normally around the age of 3, a child develops a firmly held feeling of being male, female, somewhere in between, fluid, or neither gender. Your gender identity is purely based on if you identify yourself as male, female, or another gender. This is where transgender people come in. Transgender people are individuals who don't identify with the sex they were born as. For example, people who are born with a male biological sex, but who identify as female, or vice versa. Cisgender people are those who identify with the sex they were born as. There's still a lot of research being done into the biology of being transgender, as we don't know everything quite yet. One theory is based on the fact that sexual differentiation of the genitals and brain happen at different points during pregnancy. 6 to 8 weeks into pregnancy, the genderless protogonads start to become male or female genitals, whereas gender-based difference in the brain happens in the second half of pregnancy. A wide variety of environmental factors such as hormones, chemicals, and nutrients determine if the brain and genitals become male or female. This means that the environment around an embryo could change between the genitals being developed and the brain, which could cause a disconnect between the two. There aren't specific male and female brains, but there are differences between the brains of men and women. Research into transgender people shows that trans people's brains tend to be more similar to the gender they identify as than their biological sex at birth. This research is only in its early stages, but it helps us to begin to understand what could cause people to be transgender. Your gender expression is a third completely separate part. Your gender expression is based on how you convey your gender to other people. This could be through behaviour, clothing, or any other external signs of gender. This is also a spectrum. On one end is masculine, where you express your gender in a way which very closely aligns with things your culture thinks of as male. While on the other end is feminine, so expressing your gender in a way associated with females. There's a whole variety of gender expressions between these two extremes. It's important to remember that having a gender expression which doesn't 100% match your biological sex doesn't make you transgender. Few people completely comply with all of the cultural stereotypes which define what it means to be male or female. When it comes to me personally, my biological sex is male, my gender identity is male, however I wouldn't put my gender expression as 100% male. My traits are generally male, but I don't completely match society's stereotypes of what it means to be male. Your gender expression is a very subjective thing, and there's a lot of space between the two extremes. Somewhere between the two sides is identifying as androgynous. This means being a combination of masculine and feminine, or another form of gender expression. As we go forward, there's going to be more and more conversations about what it means to be male, female, or somewhere in between. Hopefully now you feel a little more informed to get involved in these debates.